Hello, welcome to another edition of On the Spot. I'm Christopher Taylor of My Astro Chris, and you're back on the spot with me. Today we have the chart of a 39-year-old female. And we'll take a couple pieces of that chart, like we usually do, and just give some brief tidbits about what's been going on, what's going on now, and what she can expect coming up associated with this component of her chart. So here is a look to introduce her at her natal chart, right here. Okay, and what we want to focus on is a couple of areas I want to focus on. First, I want to look at the Sun-Venus conjunction in Gemini that's sextiling her Leo moon in the second house. It's over on the left-hand side of the chart, as well as checking out, in addition to that, the Jupiter-Mercury opposition in her chart. Jupiter in Capricorn in her 6th house opposing Mercury over in Cancer in her 12th house. Okay, so here's a look at the chart here highlighting both of those areas. So first things first, I want to focus first, like I said, on the Sun-Venus conjunction in Gemini sextiling her moon in Leo. And this is coming from the 12th house cusp down to the 2nd house. And so, in general, what this kind of means in her natal chart, in her life plan, in other words, is this ability or capability of developing a skill of blending this urge toward solitude, let's say, that's that Sun, Venus in the 12th house, this sort of valuing and honoring of solitude within herself. So this is meditation, spiritual practice, spiritual leanings, okay, and balancing that in a creative way with this Leo urge, this lunar Leo. This is someone who's going to have unconscious tendencies toward wanting to be seen, wanting to be out there, very different from craving the solitude. But here's someone who has the skill set or the ability to develop a blend of this throughout her life. And that moon is also in the 2nd house, so there's some unconscious tendencies toward needing security and things of the nature that are outside of the spiritual realm, outside of the realm of trust and having faith, which is what the 12th house is all about. And so here's someone who can blend those ideas together, the ideas of faith and trust, with the sort of need to be seen, need to be known, need to have a secure place, a tangible aspect to herself. And so she's working on trying to create that. And right now, what we have are, number one, here in August, and right now today is July, what is today's date? July 26th, 2011. It's actually the first day of the Mayan calendar, not the Ian Lungo Mayan calendar, but there's different Mayan calendars out there, more the 13 moon cycle calendar. Different story altogether, but just wanted to bring that up, that today, Happy New Year, if you follow the Mayan calendar. So, July 26th. Anyway, what we have going on, coming up very soon here in August, is a Mercury retrograde. And so Mercury retrogrades 3 times a year for about 3 weeks, and it's a time of reorganization. It gets a bad rap for being a time, avoid this, avoid that, but the reality is, it's not about avoiding things so much, it's about doing things during the right timing. And Mercury retrogrades are a great time to reorganize, rethink, to analyze, to go over. Not a great time to move forward with new decisions, which is true, which is why it gets a bad rap. But it's excellent for wrapping up what we've been mulling over before we move forward just after the Mercury retrograde. And this retrograde is going to last from about August 2nd through about August 25th, 26th, something like that. And so that period is going to be one of those times. So it's basically the month of August for the most part. And Mercury won't leave its shadow until about mid to late, about mid-September, we'll say. Okay, and I bring up Mercury retrograde because this, along with Saturn, are going to start making aspects to this sextile in her chart, this Sun-Venus conjunction sextile the moon. And so it all starts out here with the Mercury retrograde in August, and so Mercury is going to be retrograding over the area of late Leo into the very first degree of Virgo. Okay, and so this will begin, so when Mercury reaches the first degree of Virgo around August 2nd next week, that's when it starts moving backwards. It'll move backwards to about 19 or 20 degrees Leo, and then it'll start moving forward again around August 25th, 26th from that point. Her moon in Leo happens to fall at 24 degrees. So Mercury already passed her moon here just a few days ago to start this cycle, and so it also started with a sextile up to her Sun and Venus just recently. And now Mercury is continuing to move on through the later parts of Leo until it gets to early Virgo here in a couple of days. And then it'll move backwards. It'll pass over that moon again. It'll sextile that Sun and Venus again. And then it'll make one last pass when it moves forward past those again. So it's highlighting this area quite a bit. It's kind of like, I think of it like shaving, kind of going over different areas of your body. You missed some hairs one time, so you go back over it, then you go back over it a third time, and then you pretty much have it all. So that's kind of what's going on here. And this is going to introduce a period for when Saturn comes, and Saturn's at the bottom of the chart, and when Saturn hits, okay, and let me just show you that chart here, just show you, where Mercury and Saturn are relative to this area. Okay, so Saturn was there at the bottom of the chart, about to enter her fourth house. It'll enter her fourth house around early October. Okay, so we have the Mercury retrograde to introduce all these themes going on, and then we'll have Saturn in early October that will form a trine up to that Sun-Venus conjunction and sextile that moon of hers. So a very pleasant kind of anchoring in that's going to happen here. So what does this all mean? Okay, so we have the kind of timing that goes on. In addition with that timing, Saturn, again, is going to enter the fourth house in early October, but from the period from about November through the end of next summer, the end of the summer 2012, Saturn will be an aspect to the moon, to the sun, and to Venus. And so this is what I want to introduce here for about a year period, starting here in August, and even as early as now, she can probably start feeling it in late July. All the way through late summer of 2012, this is a general theme stimulating that part of herself, the blending of this solitude, spiritual, faith-based individual with this need to be seen, need to be known, need to tangibilize and make real out of it. Okay? And so no longer being satisfied being by herself doing what she loves, but needing to bring it out there in some way. And so this is a theme that comes up. So the Mercury retrograde introduces this idea. And it just so happens that the Sun, in this case, rules the sign of Leo on the second house, the same place the Moon is in. And the Moon rules her first house, she's Cancer rising. And Venus, in this case, rules the fourth house, the same place that Saturn is entering. So we have this general theme of kind of second house, fourth house with the true self coming together here. And so this says to me on an internal level, here's someone who throughout the month of August is going to really be contemplating, really going over and mulling over within herself about what is she worth out in the world? What can she bring out there? And how does she ground this into reality? How does she find a solid platform for this? In a physical sense, this could be a decision about moving, about putting herself somewhere. Maybe not moving her residential area, but possibly moving her into an office space to do her spiritual work, for example. Perhaps moving in some way, grounding herself into a new space. August will be a time period to mull it over, not a time period to do anything about it, not a time period to actually move on with it. When we get to October, early October, when Saturn crosses the fourth house, this is when it's the now time. Okay, now's the time to start thinking about how do we do this? What do we do? All right? And when Saturn starts aspecting those planets, Sun, Venus, and Moon, in November, and it goes all the way until next summer, it's really her time, November of 2011 till the end of the summer 2012, to establish herself in a very tangible way, solid base. Whether that means physically moving herself somewhere new or not is up to her. But there is a sense that whatever she's doing, she's establishing herself in a solid, tangible way related to blending her love of solitude, her valuing of solitude and spirituality and this inner need, this inner unconscious need to be seen, to be known for it, to be, tangibly recognized for that. And so this is all coming together for her over the next year or so. In addition to this, like I said, I want to talk about that Jupiter-Mercury opposition. Jupiter in the 6th in Capricorn opposite Mercury in Cancer over in the 12th house. And so here's a look at the planets Pluto and Uranus and how they're aspecting that right now. Okay, and so Pluto started last spring of 2010, with Jupiter. So Pluto is right there with Jupiter, right? What's called a conjunction in Capricorn, right on top of Jupiter in the 6th house. And so since spring of 2010, there's been a real sense in her of, okay, I've got to do my work. Whatever my work is, this is what she's really intending to do in this life. And this is a time period, a couple-year period, from the spring of 2010 to the spring of 2012, where we're right in the middle of it, where she is releasing any old parts of herself that utilize that very service-based aspect of her, that Jupiter in the 6th house. This is someone who can really expand in service. But she can get caught up in serving others for what they want versus how she wants to serve the world. And so this time period is about releasing the need to serve others in their way and transforming or actualizing into the self that can serve the world through her own means, okay? And so this is where she's kind of growing in this. And this spring of 2011, Pluto actually made it far enough to oppose that Mercury over there in the 12th. That Mercury in the 12th in Cancer is a very spiritually oriented mind of hers. She pulls in information, intuitive information is what this kind of leans toward. And with Pluto opposing that, it's almost like pulling the release valve on that. And a lot of the information that she usually gets anyway, she's finding she has to have an outlet for it. Okay? So this, again, started in the spring, and so she's getting the combination with that Jupiter. There's a real sense in her with that Jupiter-Mercury opposition, which internally is a sense of really wanting to bring her word out there. And there can be exaggeration with that. There can be a sense of overexuberance, but there really is a sense of, I've got to speak what I have to say. And this time period, with Pluto kind of hitting those points, she's really, really, revved up and ready to do something with the information that's coming through, basically. Get it out there. Get it out there for people to see, to hear, everything else. Okay? And now what we have is the planet Uranus, which just started here in this spring of 2011 with a square down to Jupiter from her 9th house. And it will, from this point, from this spring here of 2011, all the way through the end of 2012, really, it'll be messing around with this Jupiter-Mercury opposition. The first part being Jupiter here from the spring of 2011 to the spring of 2012, and then from the spring of 2012 all the way into early 2013, it'll be squaring that Mercury over there in her 12th. And so what this represents, this first part of this, from now until about the spring of 2012, is new opportunities. She's getting information that's even out of the norm for her, and also opportunities to expand her work. Okay, that's coming at her this year, and then as Uranus squares Mercury starting in the spring of 2012, in that kind of time frame, this is when that unusual information, that spiritual information that comes to her now, it's about really taking action to get it out there, really getting her word out to the public in some way, okay? And so this all adds up to, here's someone who's going to be able to take the information that typically comes to her in a more private form, in a more quiet kind of form, that she might not always share with others. Now it's about honoring almost that unconscious Leonine side of her, honoring it enough to say, I've got to speak what comes through me. And so she'll be finding people coming to her that need to hear what she has to say, okay, in whatever form that takes. So that about wraps it up for this time. Thank you again for joining me. I'm Christopher Taylor with My Astro Chris. If you're interested in your own on-the-spot or a comprehensive reading, I specialize in more comprehensive readings for personal individuals. A reading like this that would be expanded beyond few pieces. Also for couples, whether married or newly together, whatever it is for you, or also businesses. So looking at people's business plans, looking at timing of when to launch new projects. Also looking at the relationships between coworkers, the unconscious, unspoken expectations that people have, and getting a chance to understand that and how we can have coworkers work together instead of against each other. Okay, that's the kind of things you can get out of a business application for astrology. And so if you want to contact me through my website at myastrochris.com. Also, I have a special website just for newlyweds. There's different services like bridal shower services, wedding parties, as far as receptions go, and actually newlywed counseling. Okay, if you want more information on that, that's through myastroweding.com. Okay, so thanks again. I'm Christopher Taylor, signing off. We'll see you next time. Bye.